To make some extra cash, I disguised myself as a girl to work as a Lego doll for CampusHeartthrob. At first, I thought it would be simple, but reality quickly proved otherwise. The first time we met, he didn't even glance at my face. "Spread your legs wider," he instructed, casually, like it was the most normal thing in the world. My stomach twisted with nerves. What if he discovered I was actually a guy? But that day, I couldn't keep up the act anymore. "Move your legs closer," he said next. I froze. My heart pounded in my chest. Jake, the guy everyone called untouchable, didn't even look at me. His attention was fixed entirely on my long, pale legs, crossed together. "Relax," he continued, his tone calm, almost professional. "Don't keep your legs so tense. Your poses are too stiff." Heat flooded my face. Anyone overhearing us would think we were doing something scandalous. And to make matters worse, Jake casually tugged down the hem of my bathrobe as he spoke. His expression, however, remained completely professional. After adjusting my pose, he finally nodded with satisfaction. "That's better." He returned to his easel, brush in hand, while I sat there, burning hotter by the second. This was my first time modeling for Jake. What he didn't know was that beneath my flowing hair, I was actually a guy trying to make extra money. Somehow, he'd taken an interest in me and, using his usual confident charm, managed to make me his private leg model. He led me to his studio and coldly instructed me to take a shower. My stomach twisted with unease. Something about this didn't feel right. And sure enough, what came next pushed my limits in ways I hadn't imagined. During the session, Jake even adjusted my pose personally, his hands brushing against my skin. I could feel the warmth from his fingers, and I blushed uncontrollably. But I'd already come this far. I couldn't just run away now. I lay on the couch, counting the seconds as if time had slowed to a crawl, only finally relaxing when he stepped back from the easel. After changing back into my clothes, I peeked at the painting. There I was, lying on the couch, legs crossed elegantly. My upper body was simple, almost sketch-like, but my legs were painted with painstaking detail, so lifelike it made my stomach knot. Jake stared at the canvas, completely absorbed. "Leg fetish," I muttered under my breath, and to my horror, I realized he'd heard me. His expression snapped back to his usual cool, untouchable demeanor. "Come here. Let's exchange contact info," he said abruptly. I hesitated. Did I really want him in my social media? What if he discovered my secret? Would he be furious? Demand his money back? Jake frowned, impatient. "How else am I supposed to pay you? Don't you want your money?" I handed him my phone, setting my profile to private before accepting his friend request. Clever, I thought, relief flooding me as he didn't notice anything suspicious. "I'll text you when I want to paint next. Be on time," Jake said, matter of fact, as if there were no option to refuse. I wasn't thrilled. Dressing as a girl once for money was one thing, but doing it repeatedly? The thought made my chest tighten. Each session increased the risk of being found out. "Look, you've already finished your painting. I think the job's done," I said, hoping to end it. Jake didn't even glance at me. "I'm not satisfied with this piece. Of course we'll continue until I'm happy. But I don't want to do this 10 times for payment. I'll be there whenever you need me." Who could understand the struggles of being broke? I swallowed my anxiety and nodded, knowing I didn't have much of a choice. Besides, I thought, since I'd already dressed up once, what difference would a few more times make? Back at my dorm, my roommates were curious about my part-time job. They knew I modeled for the art club, but the idea that I wore women's clothes had never crossed their minds. I shrugged off their questions with vague, non-committal answers. One of my roommates was scrolling through the school forum when he suddenly shouted, "Holy cow!" I peeked over his shoulder. Jake had won first prize in the state art competition. A famous art master had praised his talent, calling him a rising star in the art world. "He's smart, handsome, and can win awards just by painting," my roommate said, pounding the desk in frustration. "Every girl on campus is practically begging to have his babies. How are normal guys like us supposed to compete?" I glanced at the screen and saw Jake's profile. The candid photo captured him effortlessly, elegant, aloof, untouchable. He was a master of appearances. If only people knew about his obsession with girls' legs. The girls who adored him would be shocked and disappointed. I shook my head and glanced at my payment app balance. A little treat wouldn't hurt. I bought my favorite candied chestnuts and wandered around campus, peeling them carefully as I walked. Lost in the sweet, sticky shells, I didn't notice the figure ahead until, bam, I'd bumped into someone. The bag slipped from my hands, chestnuts scattering across the pavement. Oh no. I'm so sorry. I crouched quickly, trying to scoop them up. It's okay. Just be more careful when walking, came a familiar voice. I froze. Jake. My heart thumped painfully in my chest. He frowned down at the spilled chestnuts. I can pay for new ones, he offered. No. It's my fault, I stammered, hardly daring to meet his eyes. I abandoned the chestnuts, muttering another apology before bolting past him, terrified he might recognize me without my wig and feminine outfit. As long as he didn't get a good look at my face, I reasoned, he should know. I ran, not noticing Jake standing there, staring after me longer than I dared to imagine. 2 days passed in silence. No messages from Jake. Relief washed over me, until that morning when my phone buzzed with a single, simple message. Just a time. Panic set in. If I went, I risked being exposed as a guy in disguise. If I didn't, would he become suspicious? I gritted my teeth and made my choice. I would go, and this time, I'd tell him clearly that it was the last session. As usual, I had to shower first. When I returned, Jake handed me a spaghetti strap dress. My eyes widened at the thin fabric. Instinctively, I shook my head, pressing both hands to my chest. I can't wear this, I said firmly, holding the delicate dress at arm's length. Jake's eyebrow arched. Why not? It's just a dress. It's too revealing. My voice came out higher than intended. The thin straps would expose my shoulders completely, and I wasn't confident my padding would hold up under such scrutiny. The theme requires it, Jake said coolly, returning to his easel. If you're uncomfortable, we can end the arrangement here. I'll find someone else. My fingers tightened on the fabric. I needed this money. Tuition was due next week, and I was still short. Taking a deep breath, I retreated to the bathroom to change, layering my padding extra carefully and adjusting my wig multiple times in the mirror. When I emerged, Jake's eyes flickered over me briefly before returning to his canvas. Sit on the window seat. Legs extended, one knee slightly bent. The afternoon sunlight streamed through the window, warm on my skin. I positioned myself as instructed, hyper-aware of every movement, every breath. Jake worked in concentrated silence, the only sound the soft scratch of charcoal on canvas. Your hands are shaking, he observed without looking up. I hadn't noticed. I clasped them together, trying to steady myself. Nervous? There was something in his tone, not quite amusement, but close. A little, I admitted. You don't have to be. I'm only interested in the aesthetic. He paused, then added quietly, you have beautiful legs. That's all that matters for the painting. Heat crept up my neck. Coming from Jake, those words felt oddly genuine, even if they made my situation more complicated. The session stretched for 2 hours. When it finally ended, Jake transferred the payment immediately, more than last time. I changed quickly, eager to escape, but as I reached the door, his voice stopped me. Wait. I turned, pulse racing. Jake stood by the window, backlit by the fading sunlight. There's a campus art exhibition next month. I want to display the series, the pieces with you as the model. My stomach dropped. Display them? Publicly? Your face won't be clearly visible in any of them. I focus on form and composition, not identity. He met my eyes directly. But I'm asking your permission. I won't show them if you're uncomfortable. I swallowed hard. This could expose everything. But the way he asked, respectful, patient, made it difficult to refuse outright. Can I think about it? I asked. Take your time. Let me know by next week. I spent the next few days agonizing over Jake's request. My roommates noticed my distraction but attributed it to exam stress. If only they knew. On Thursday evening, I went to the campus gym to clear my head. The place was nearly empty. Most students were at the library cramming for midterms. I was halfway through my workout when I heard a familiar voice. You come here often? I nearly dropped the dumbbell. Jake stood a few feet away in athletic wear, looking annoyingly composed. Without his usual formal attire, he seemed more approachable, almost normal. Sometimes, I managed setting down the weight carefully. My heart hammered, not from exercise. You ran away the other day, Jake said casually, moving to the bench press nearby. When we bumped into each other. With the chestnuts. Oh no. He remembered. I was in a hurry. I lied poorly. Jake began his set, and I tried not to stare at the way his muscles flexed. You seemed scared. Like you'd seen a ghost. Just startled, I said quickly, grabbing my water bottle as an excuse to create distance. He didn't sound convinced. After finishing his set, he sat up, studying me with that intense gaze that always made me want to squirm. You look familiar. Have we met before? Besides the chestnut incident, I mean. My throat went dry. I don't think so. I have one of those faces. Maybe. He tilted his head slightly. There's something about your legs, though. The way you move. I nearly choked on my water. My legs. Very elegant. Natural grace. It's rare. He said it so matter-of-factly, like he was commenting on the weather. Reminds me of my current model, actually. This was it. This was how I'd be exposed, in a gym, sweaty and panicked, while Jake calmly analyzed my leg structure. Well, I should go, I blurted, already backing toward the exit. Lots of studying to do. I practically ran from the gym. Jake's thoughtful expression burned into my memory. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. Jake's words echoed in my mind. There's something about your legs. Was he starting to piece things together? Or was I just being paranoid? My phone buzzed. A message from Jake. Have you decided about the exhibition? I stared at the screen for a long moment before typing. I need to see the paintings first. His response came quickly. Come by tomorrow at 2 p.m. The next afternoon, I stood in Jake's studio, surrounded by 5 canvases. My breath caught. Each painting was stunning, artistic, sophisticated, and while my face was obscured or turned away in all of them, the emotion captured in each piece was unmistakable. Vulnerability, grace, something almost intimate. These are. I struggled for words. They're beautiful. Thank you. Jake stood beside me, hands in his pockets. This is my best work. Because of you. I glanced at him, surprised by the sincerity in his voice. The way you move, the nervous energy you bring, it adds something I can't replicate with other models. You're not performative. You're genuine. He paused. That's why I want to display these. They mean something. My chest tightened. How could I say no when he spoke like that? Okay, I heard myself say. You can display them. Jake's expression softened, the first real smile I'd seen from him. Thank you. I promise you won't regret this. As I left the studio that day, I realized something troubling. I was starting to care what Jake thought of me. Not just as a model, but as whatever this was becoming. The week before the exhibition, Jake requested one final session. Something special, he said mysteriously. When I arrived, the studio was transformed. Soft lighting, scattered rose petals, and a chaise lounge draped in silk. My stomach flipped. What's all this? I asked nervously. The final piece in the series. The centerpiece. Jake gestured to the lounge. I want to capture something more intimate. Intimate. I squeaked. Emotionally intimate, he clarified, though his ears were slightly pink. Trust. Vulnerability. The relationship between artist and muse. I changed into the outfit he provided, a flowing white robe that somehow felt more modest than the other outfits despite being equally revealing. As I positioned myself on the lounge, Jake worked in unusual silence, his brush strokes more deliberate than before. Halfway through, he spoke suddenly. I know. My blood ran cold. Know what? That your guy. The world tilted. I sat up so fast, I nearly fell off the lounge. I can explain. How long have you known? Jake asked, setting down his brush. His expression was unreadable. Known? I stopped, confused. You're not angry? Why would I be angry? He stepped closer, and I instinctively backed up until I hit the wall. Jake stopped a respectful distance away. I figured it out after the second session. Your hands, your Adam's apple when you're nervous, the way you move when you think I'm not looking. Little things. Then why? I gestured helplessly at everything. The studio, the paintings, this entire situation. Because it doesn't matter. Jake's voice was quiet but firm. I wasn't lying when I said you're my best model. Your gender doesn't change that. And he hesitated, a rare moment of uncertainty crossing his features. I wanted to keep seeing you, even if it had to be like this. My heart hammered against my ribs. Why? Because somewhere between the first and second session, I stopped seeing you as just a model. He met my eyes directly. I started seeing you as someone I wanted to know. Really know. Not the character you play, but who you actually are. The confession hung in the air between us. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. What's your real name? Jake asked softly. Alex, I whispered. My name is Alex. Alex. He tested the name, and a small smile curved his lips. It suits you better than the fake name you gave me. I'm sorry I lied. I understand why you did. He paused. Are you disappointed? That I knew. Honestly, I let out a shaky laugh. I'm relieved. Keeping up the act was exhausting. I can imagine. Jake's expression turned thoughtful. The exhibition is in 3 days. Will you still come? As yourself this time? You still want me there? More than anything. The intensity in his voice made my chest tight. I want you to see how other people respond to these paintings. How they see the beauty I see when I look at you. The night of the exhibition, I stood in front of my mirror for 20 minutes, second-guessing every clothing choice. Eventually, I settled on dark jeans and a simple button-up, nothing fancy, but clean and presentable. My real self. The gallery was already crowded when I arrived. Jake's series had been given a prominent wall, and I worked up the courage to approach, hanging back in the crowd to observe. The emotion in these pieces is remarkable, someone murmured. Who's the model? She's gorgeous. Another voice corrected. I heard it's actually a male model. Makes it even more interesting, challenging gender norms in art. My cheeks burned, but the comments weren't cruel. If anything, people seemed moved by the work. There you are. I turned to find Jake beside me, dressed in a black suit that made him look unfairly handsome. His eyes held a warmth I'd never seen before. Nervous? He asked. Terrified. I admitted. Don't be. Come on, there's someone I want you to meet. He led me to an elderly gentleman examining the centerpiece, the final painting from our last session. Jake introduced him as Professor Chen, the juror who'd praised his work. So you're the muse, Professor Chen said, eyes twinkling. Young man, you have a rare quality. Jake has captured something extraordinary here, the interplay between strength and vulnerability, masculine and feminine energy. It's remarkable. Thank you. I managed, overwhelmed. As Professor Chen moved on, Jake leaned close. See? You have nothing to be ashamed of. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. People approached Jake constantly, and he handled the attention with his usual cool composure, but his eyes kept finding me in the crowd, checking to make sure I was okay. Near the end of the night, as the gallery began to empty, Jake and I stood together in front of the paintings. I couldn't have done this without you, he said quietly. You're the artist. I just sat there. No. He turned to face me fully. You trusted me. You let yourself be vulnerable even when you were scared. That's why these paintings work, because the emotion is real. Jake, I want to keep painting you, he said. But more than that, I want to keep knowing you. Alex, not as my model, but as... He trailed off, uncertain for once. As what? My voice came out barely above a whisper. As someone important to me. His hand found mine, warm and steady. If you're willing. I looked at our joined hands, then up at his face, at the genuine hope in his eyes. The campus heartthrob everyone admired from afar was looking at me like I was something precious. I'm willing, I said, and squeezed his hand back. The semester after the exhibition was different. Jake and I were officially something. We hadn't quite labeled it, but we spent most of our free time together. He taught me about art. I introduced him to my favorite hole-in-the-wall restaurants. Slowly, the untouchable campus heartthrob became just Jake. Someone who burned toast, who laughed at stupid jokes, who fell asleep during late-night study sessions with paint still on his hands. My roommates eventually figured out I'd been the model in Jake's famous series. Their reactions ranged from shock to impressed admiration. Dude, you've got guts, one of them said. And, apparently, really nice legs. I threw a pillow at him. Jake continued to paint me occasionally, but now I posed as myself. No wigs, no dresses, just me. The new paintings were different, more intimate somehow. In them, I could see how he viewed me. Not as a muse or a subject, but as someone he cared for deeply. One spring afternoon, we sat in his studio together. I was supposedly modeling, but we'd long since abandoned any pretense of work. Instead, we talked about everything and nothing, future plans, favorite foods, childhood memories. Do you regret it? Jake asked suddenly. That day you bumped into me, with the chestnuts? I thought about it. The fear, the deception, the constant anxiety of being discovered. Then I thought about everything that came after. The art, the trust, and Jake himself. No, I said honestly. I don't regret it at all. Good. He smiled, that rare, genuine smile that was just for me. Because I'm planning to paint you for the rest of my life. I hope you're prepared. The rest of your life? I teased, though my heart soared. That's a long time. I know. Jake set down his brush and crossed to where I sat, pulling me close. But I can't think of anything I'd rather do. Or anyone I'd rather do it with. As he kissed me, soft and sweet, I thought about how strange life could be. I'd put on a disguise thinking I'd make some quick money and disappear. Instead, I'd found someone who saw past all my masks to the person underneath and chose that person again and again. Outside the studio window, cherry blossoms drifted past on the spring breeze. Inside, surrounded by paintings that told the story of us, I finally understood what Jake meant when he talked about capturing emotion in art. This feeling, this warmth, this certainty, this joy was what he'd been trying to paint all along. And now it was ours to keep.